A few weeks ago, I decided to camp out at an abandoned mining site in Oklahoma. As a geologist, exploring old places fascinates me. The buildings were dilapidated and the equipment rusty. It felt like history was whispering to me, but that whisper turned into something else. The first night, I stepped outside my tent. The air was still, and I could feel the eerie silence around me. I walked around, checking my gear, when I noticed distinct footprints leading away from my campsite. At first, I thought they might be from an animal. That thought comforted me for a moment. But as I examined them, a chill ran down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. That night, I set up an extra camera to capture anything strange. I figured it was better to be safe than sorry. The next evening, I checked the area again. To my surprise, the footprints had returned, and they still led deeper into the woods. I tried to brush it off, but I couldn't ignore the soft whispers. It sounded like voices, but I couldn't make out any words. I told myself it was just the wind. Then I heard clinking metal. Stopped me cold. My heart raced, and I scanned the thicket. I felt like something was watching me. I hurried back to my tent, unsettled. Over the following nights, my gear was moved. I would wake up to find my tools in different places, always further from where I'd left them. Who was doing that? The whispers grew louder, but still I couldn't understand them. Each morning I felt colder, more on edge. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped out into the darkness, heart pounding. The moonlight barely pierced the branches above. I walked toward the sound of clinking again, feeling both afraid and curious. Then I saw a figure. It stood just beyond the dim light, watching me. I froze. I regretted stepping out. "Hello?" I called, trying to sound brave. My voice was shaky, lost in the silence. The figure remained still, like it was waiting. I felt a wave of dread wash over me. It didn't look completely solid. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me, but it seemed more like a shadow than a person. I blinked, and then it was gone. I ran back to my tent, panic soaring. I packed my gear in a frenzy. I didn't want to stay another second there. As I gathered my things, the tragic stories I'd heard about the mine crept back into my mind. Something deep beneath that site was disturbed. I could feel it. I slung my backpack on my shoulders and hurried to my car. Just when I thought I'd escaped, I felt that cold presence again creeping up my back. I turned around, and there was nothing there. But the whispers were back, echoing around me, growing louder and louder. I hurried into my car. My heart sank as I drove away. I swear I could still hear the voices trailing behind me, calling out in the dead of night. They were still there, waiting. I drove through the night, my mind racing. The whispers echoed in my head, mixing with the sounds of the tires crunching over gravel. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, expecting to see something, anything. But there was only darkness. I finally reached the nearest town, a small speck of light in the vastness of Oklahoma. I parked in front of a diner that looked like it hadn't changed in decades. I stepped inside, pretending to be casual, but my body felt tight with tension. I ordered a coffee, hoping the caffeine would wake me up. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, gave me a curious look. "Been out at the mines?" she asked, wiping down the counter. Yeah, just checking some things," I replied, forcing a smile. "Folks like to tell tales about that place. Strange happenings, they say," she said, her eyes drifting to the window. Tales. I didn't want to hear them. I could feel my heart pounding again. "Oh yeah? What kind of tales?" The waitress leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "People have seen things. Shadows that don't belong. Sounds that echo through the night. Some say they're the lost miners, trapped down there." I was on alert now. "Trapped?" She nodded slowly, staring into my eyes, searching for understanding. "The mine collapsed years ago. Some never made it out. You're not the first to sense them, you know." A cold shiver ran down my spine. We were silent for a moment, lost in the weight of her words. I had felt it too, the unease, the history that hung in the air. I left a few bills on the counter and stepped outside. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a dim light over the landscape. I decided I needed to go back. As fearful as I was, I felt an undeniable pull towards the mining site. Something there demanded my attention. Maybe I could uncover the truth behind the whispers. The drive back felt different. With the daylight stretching before me, the bleakness of the site was disconcerting yet oddly inviting. I parked my car and took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. As I walked towards the ruins, the air grew heavier, as if the very ground was holding its breath. I approached the buildings cautiously. The overwhelming stillness settled around me again. I pulled out the extra camera I had left behind, feeling its weight in my hands. As I turned it on, a sudden gust swept through, rustling the dry leaves. Then I saw the footprints, evident in the morning light. They were fresh, newly pressed into the earth. Panic surged in my chest. I had left them behind before. Now they pulsed toward a part of the site I hadn't explored yet. With trembling hands, I followed the prints, my heart racing louder with each step. They led towards a crumbling shaft, partially covered with debris. Felt like an invitation. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back. But I couldn't resist as I peered inside. Darkness swallowed the light, and the whispers rose once more. They felt different this time, urgent, insistent. I took a step forward, and that was when I heard it. A desperate voice, barely a whisper but unmistakable, calling out for help from the shadows. That moment changed everything. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the fear that wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. The voice, though barely audible, was clear enough. Someone or something was down there. My instincts screamed at me to run, but curiosity and dread held me fast. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing like a pebble dropped into a still pond. No response came, just the whispering wind and the oppressive silence. That I leaned closer to the edge of the shaft, squinting into the darkness, trying to see anything. The air smelled damp and musty, like something long forgotten. I felt a chill creep up my spine. What was I doing here? I should have turned around and gotten in my car, but something kept pulling me closer. When I noticed it, a glimmer in the dirt at the base of the shaft. I knelt down, pushing aside some of the loose stones. It was a small metal object, caked in grime. I pulled it free and wiped it clean, revealing an old, rusted nameplate. My heart dropped as I traced the letters with my finger. Jacob Drover. I remembered the name. The waitress had mentioned him, one of the miners who had never come back. The sense of being watched increased tenfold. I felt like I was intruding on something sacred. The whispers began again, this time more coherent, more urgent. Help us, my chest tightened. The thought of helping them, whatever they were, drew a line between sanity and desperation. Was I supposed to find a way to rescue the lost or document my findings? Just then, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind me. Heart racing, I turned quickly, but there was no one there. Just the trees swaying and the remnants of the mine creaking in the wind. I shook my head to clear it. The night and the stories from the diner were playing tricks on my mind. But then, I heard it again. Closer now. A faint scuffle followed by a low growl. My heart pounded in my ears. I couldn't tell if it was the sound of my own fear or something from the shadows. I fumbled with the camera, hoping to capture whatever was lurking, but my hands were shaking too much. "Who's there?" I called out, more bravely than I felt. Silence enveloped me, as if the world held its breath. Before I could process what was happening, a figure stepped out from behind the ruins. It was small, hunched over, its features obscured by shadows. My breath caught in my throat. Was this a miner? Was it something else? "Help us!" The voice echoed again, now louder. The figure moved toward me, and I could see its eyes dark and pleading. Instinct kicked in and I took a step back. The weight of the camera felt like a lead anchor in my hand. I had to choose, run or confront this new reality. In that moment I made my choice. But just as I prepared to speak, the whispers surged louder, drowning out everything else. I could hear their panic, their despair crashing over me like waves. "Help us!" The cry pulled me closer to the edge of choice. And then came a deafening silence, as if the mine itself held its breath, waiting for what I would do next. I hesitated, caught between instinct and empathy. The figure continued to move closer, its eyes glinting with urgency. They seemed familiar somehow. I took a shaky step forward. "What happened to you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Help us," the figure rasped again. But this time a rumble came from deeper within the mine, a long, low groan, as if the ground were warning me. My pulse quickened. Should I stay and see what this entity wanted, or should I run before things escalated further? Just as I considered my options, the figure straightened up slightly, revealing a face shadowed in dirt and time. A flash of panic surged through me as I recognized him. It was Jacob Drover, or at least the ghostly echo of him. I had seen his picture in the diner, with his broad smile frozen in time, forever lost in that abyss. "Please," he said, and I could see the desperation in his eyes. "We're trapped." The mine groaned again, a terrible sound mingling with the whispers. It felt as if the earth itself resented my presence, the air thick with a foreboding energy. I thought about turning to run, but something in Jacob's expression held me there. "Trapped?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Who's with you?" "Others, darker things," he replied, glancing over his shoulder as if something lurked just behind him. A shiver ran down my spine. I peered into the darkness behind him, struggling to make out any shapes or forms. The swirling darkness felt alive, pulsing with an unseen force. "I can help," I said, trying to sound certain. "But I need to know what I'm dealing with." The figure took a shaky breath. "Find the lantern. It's the key. Down below." With a sudden, harrowing noise, the earth shook beneath my feet. The whispers turned into a cacophony of cries, rising in a pitch that rattled my bones. "Go," Jacob urged, his form flickering in the dim light as he began to fade. "Hurry!" The ground rumbled violently, and I stumbled back. I felt panic clawing at my insides. My heart raced as the darkness pressed against me. I had come here to document a story, but now I was part of one that I couldn't fully understand. Then, in the chaos, I spotted a lingering glow far down the shaft, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The lantern? It had to be. Before I could second-guess myself, I plunged into the shaft. The damp walls closed around me as I descended, each step drawing me deeper into the unknown. The whispers echoed more clearly now, an unsettling chorus, beckoning me forward. My hands trembled as I reached for the light. "What do you want?" I yelled into the enveloping darkness, but my voice was swallowed whole. With every inch downward, a weight pressed on my chest. What was waiting for me at the end of this descent? And then I realized this descent was only the beginning. The light grew brighter as I descended, illuminating the walls of the mine in an eerie glow. The whispers turned into voices, each one more desperate than the last. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Fear and pain. As my foot landed on the final step, I stepped into a narrow chamber. It was darker than I expected, but the lantern flickered at the far end. My breath caught as I took in the space around me. Scattered piles of debris and old tools were strewn about, remnants of lives long forgotten. The ground beneath me felt uneven, the air thick with a musty scent that made me want to gag. I forced myself to move forward. My eyes locked onto the lantern. The soft golden light danced like a beacon, warm against the chill of despair surrounding me. Every step felt like an eternity, and I glanced back over my shoulder. The darkness grew heavier, as if the mine itself were alive and watching. Suddenly, a clatter echoed through the chamber. I spun around, heart pounding. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. I could hear it now, footsteps, another presence lurking. Was it Jacob? Or something else? Something darker? Then I saw it, a shadow shifting against the wall. I squinted, trying to decipher the movement. It twisted and turned, creating a growing sense of unease inside me. "Who's there?" I called again, but no response came. Instead, the shadow surged forward, silhouetted against the lantern's light. I stumbled backward, nearly losing my footing. "Stay away," I shouted, clutching my camera tightly. The figure paused, revealing a face that was disturbingly human yet warped, marred by pain. The resemblance to Jacob flickered in and out like the dying flame of the lantern. "Help us," croaked just as Jacob had. My gut twisted. It was a plea I couldn't ignore, but I sensed danger beneath the surface. I resisted the urge to turn and run. Instead, I took a deep breath and approached cautiously. With each step, the lantern's glow revealed more around me, a makeshift altar, symbols carved crudely into the dirt, bones of small animals scattered like forgotten offerings. This place was sacred to something but also cursed. The air crackled with menace. "What do you want?" I whispered as I reached for the lantern, fingers trembling. The moment I touched it, a burst of energy rippled through me, igniting a desperation to know. "I am not alone," the figure whispered, its eyes pleading. "We are trapped in a cycle. You must break it." A chill ran through me. It felt like a warning, a release of something I didn't fully understand. My breath quickened as I looked deeply into the figure's haunting gaze, trying to comprehend what lay ahead. That's when I saw it, a dark shape slithering along the chamber's edge. It didn't belong to any of the souls I had encountered. It was something older, something with malice in its intent. My stomach dropped. "Run!" I shouted, instinct taking over as I yanked the lantern free from its resting place, the energy crackling louder. I turned to flee, but the darkness moved faster. Something was coming for me, and I had to escape before it was too late. My heart raced as I sprinted toward the entrance of the chamber. The weight of the lantern was comforting in my hand, the flickering light casting frantic shadows against the walls. I could hear the slithering getting closer, a horrible scraping sound that sent shivers down my spine. Each footfall echoed in the narrow tunnel, an urgent reminder that I needed to escape. I reached the mouth of the mine, but the darkness behind me pushed against the light, snaking forward like an insatiable beast. The exit felt miles away, the air heavy and thick, pulling me back into the depths. I glanced back only once, and what I saw froze me in place. The shadow had formed into a grotesque shape, its eyes glowing like hot coals, fixing on me with a predatory gaze. "Don't look," I shouted at myself, forcing my feet to move. I stumbled over the debris as I made my way out, desperation fueling my speed. The lantern flickered dangerously, fighting against the encroaching darkness. Couldn't he die now? I needed its light. That I burst from the mine into the cool night air, gasping for breath. The contrast of the starlit sky was jarring after the suffocating confines of the mine. Safety was just a few steps away, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being hunted. I turned back, feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon me. Then I heard a voice, soft yet insistent, drifting through the stillness. "Help us!" It wasn't just the figure anymore. Multiple voices intertwined, echoing through the night like a haunting melody. I gripped the lantern tighter, flicking my eyes across the opening of the mine. My brain screamed at me to run, but I was frozen, caught in the pull of their plea. "Why are you here?" I choked out, my voice trembling. "What do you need from me?" The wind howled in response. I flickered the light of the lantern toward the darkness of the entrance, as if daring whatever was there to show itself. A shift in the shadows caught my eye, but nothing emerged. Just the whispers circling, waiting. "I can't help you if you don't tell me," I yelled into the abyss. "What do I have to do?" There was silence for a heartbeat, and fear clawed at me. The lantern's light trembled, on the verge of fading. I took a step back, nerves fraying. This was a mistake, I murmured, regret washing over me. I turned, ready to leave this place, this cursed site, when something stopped me. A creaking sound resonated from deeper within the mine, a promise of more darkness hiding behind its walls. I needed to know what it meant. My curiosity piqued. I turned back toward the entrance, heart pounding. "What do you want me to do?" I whispered, my breath hitching in my throat. Then, just like that, everything changed. A surge of energy flooded the air, making the hairs on my arms stand on end. The whispers crescendoed, and for a fleeting moment, I understood it was a warning, a desperate call for freedom. Suddenly, the lantern flared brightly, illuminating a figure standing in the mine's mouth, cloaked in shadow. I couldn't make out the features. All I knew was that I was no longer alone. I had to decide. Should I confront it or run again? The choice weighed heavily on me, and I sensed that whatever I did next would change everything. The figure in the mine stood still, an unsettling silhouette against the darker backdrop inside. I could hardly breathe, my heart pounding wildly against my ribs. The air thickened around me as I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. I could almost feel its gaze piercing through the shadows, searching for something. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice shaky but loud enough to break the silence hanging over the mine. I took a cautious step closer, the lantern illuminating the rusty mine cart remnants strewn at the entrance. "Help us," the voice returned, stronger now, filling the space with urgency. This time it felt more directed, as if pleading specifically with me. Instinct was screaming at me to flee, to sprint away and never look back, but I was rooted to the spot. The figure remained shrouded. Its presence seemed familiar yet foreign, a chilling mix of comfort and dread. I squinted, hoping to catch a glimpse of its features, to turn the mystery into something manageable. But the shadows held firm. Another creak echoed from deeper within the mine, more pronounced this time, like a door slowly opening. I glimpsed movement, as if there were more things lurking beyond, drawing near. The whispers grew louder. "Help us!" It was a chorus of sorrow, of anguish, and suddenly, I felt the weight of countless eyes upon me. "Why? What do you want from me?" I demanded, shaking now. My grip on the lantern tightened, its glow flickering uncertainly. Then the figure took a step forward, breaking from the shadows for just a moment. In the pale light, I saw a face blurred, twisted, but painfully human. A flash of recognition jolted through me. I had seen this face before in old newspaper clippings about the mine, about the disappearances. A chill crept down my spine that I felt an urgency building within me, as if I was being told to act. "What can I do?" I implored, a mix of fear and determination coursing through me. I could either run and forget this whole nightmare or risk it all to uncover the truth. The figure raised its hand slowly, pointing deeper into the mine. Time froze as I processed this gesture. It didn't want me to leave. It wanted me to go further into the dark. That S when I saw it. In the shadow cast by the entrance, an outline emerged, a pair of rough, large shackles, rusted from years without use, lying forgotten. The sight filled me with a wave of dread. Clicked in my mind, this was more than just a plea for help. It was a cry for liberation. My heart raced as I realized what was happening. The mining site wasn't just abandoned. Something had happened here, something violent and irreversible. It was a truth I had to confront, or else I'd be haunted by these whispers forever. I stepped forward, drawn by a force stronger than my fear, ready to delve deeper into the very darkness I once tried to escape. As I took that step, I felt the ground tremble beneath me. The lantern flickered, casting erratic shadows around. Then everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness enveloped me completely. The sudden absence of light turned the mine into a suffocating void. My fingers fumbled for the lantern, which had sputtered out. "No, no, no," I muttered, panic gripping me. I felt around, desperate for any hint of the walls and familiar terrain. Just then, a distant glow flickered back to life, coaxing me toward its source. I stumbled through the darkness, my breath shallow, keeping my ears attuned for any signs of life or movement. I had to reach that light. As I moved cautiously forward, I heard it again, the whispers. "Help us," they echoed from deep within the mine, an unsettling reminder that I wasn't alone. They felt closer, almost personal, wrapping around me with a sense of urgency. My heart raced faster. The glow ahead intensified, and I moved faster, guided by a strange mix of resolve and dread. I could make out shapes in the dim illumination tools, broken beams, and that dreadful shackle. With each step closer, fear twisted in my gut. This wasn't a simple job site. It was a graveyard of stories left untold. Reaching the light, I saw it was a lantern, another one, still functioning despite the long years of neglect. The air around it shimmered with a palpable energy, like a threshold I had yet to cross. I hesitated, the remnants of fear gnawing at me. Should I reach out? Against my better judgment, I extended my hand to touch the rim of the lantern. The moment my fingers made contact, the light brightened, revealing a new section of the mine. My breath caught as I looked around and saw sketches etched into the rock wall's desperate faces, distorted shapes, grim scenes of labor and cries for freedom. A new wave of whispers flared up, echoing louder than before. Help us! It was as if the mine itself had come alive, pulsating with the weight of its history. Then, something flickered at the edges of my vision. I turned sharply, my heart nearly jumping from my chest. A shadow darted behind a collapsed rock pile. My instincts screamed for me to run, but curiosity took over. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. Silence stretched in response. I knew I had to investigate. I stepped cautiously toward the pile, every instinct forcing me to turn back. But the same pull that had drawn me into the mine kept me moving forward. That I crouched near the fallen rocks and peered into the darkness. Just beyond, I could see what looked like an old mining cart partially buried. I reached out, unearthing more debris. My heart raced as something caught my eye, a glint of metal that I pulled at the cart until it rolled free. A cold wind swept through, and a voice I recognized reverberated in my mind. "You must find the truth." Before I could process it further, the ground trembled again, rumbling under my feet. Panic flooded me as dust rained down from the ceiling. I had to get out. But then I glimpsed something else, the outline of a figure standing near the back, watching me. I froze. That's when I realized this was just the beginning. I had uncovered something I was never meant to find, and only time would reveal what awaited me next. I stood frozen, my heart pounding harder than ever. The figure remained still, just a shadow against the dim light, but I could feel its gaze drilling into me. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I found myself backing away slowly, my body caught between instinct and curiosity. "Who are you?" I finally managed to croak out, my voice shaky and barely above a whisper. The figure didn't respond, just stayed there, silent and unmoving. Fear settled deeper in my chest, cold and heavy. The lantern's glow spilled over the ground, illuminating the space between us. But the figure stayed cloaked in shadow, and I knew I had to leave. Something primal urged me to turn and run, yet I couldn't tear my eyes away from the silhouette. It felt like something unstoppable was tethering me in place. Then it happened. The lantern flickered out for a split second, plunging me back into darkness. My heart raced, panic slicing through me as I scrambled for the light. Just as quickly, the glow returned, and I caught a glimpse of something, a flash of white cloth clinging to the figure. It was almost like a dress or a tunic, worn and tattered. "Help us!" The whispers rose up again, more urgent now, filling my ears like a haunting melody. They felt alive, swirling around me, urging me to pay attention. I had to do something. The weight of the darkness pressed heavily against me, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. With one last deep breath, I gripped the metal edge of the mining cart beside me, using it for support. I inched forward, desperately trying to see the figure clearer. "Please," I said, my voice just above a murmur. "What do you want?" The figure seemed to shift, slowly revealing more of itself to the glow. I caught my breath. A face emerged, gaunt and hollow but unmistakably human. Its features twisted in apparent agony, but the eyes, they shimmered with desperation. "Find the truth," it whispered again, the voice almost a sigh, mingling with the echoes of the past. "Break the chains." With those words, the figure started to fade back into the shadows, leaving behind nothing but the chilling air of its presence. My mind raced. Chains? What did that mean? Suddenly, the mind felt larger, more oppressive, like a vessel holding back old secrets. Then, without warning, the ground shook again. The tremor was stronger this time. Dust fell from the ceiling, and I stumbled back, fear gripping me as I realized the mine was shifting, threatening to bury the truth along with me. I had to find out what lay hidden, but the darkness loomed. "Wait," I called out, but the figure was gone. I was alone again, but the whispers continued to weave through the air, guiding me deeper into the mine, urging me to search for answers. With a new resolve, I ventured further into the intricate maze of tunnels, each step echoing with uncertainty. I needed to uncover what happened here and at what cost. Then, I caught sight of something glowing in the corner of my eye. My breath caught. That's when I saw it, a rusted iron door, slightly ajar. It seemed untouched by the passage of time, beckoning me with an unsettling promise. What lay behind it? I pressed forward, the whispers urging me on. A surge of urgency pushing me to uncover the next piece of the nightmare surrounding me. As I approached the rusted iron door, its contours catching the lantern's flickering light, a knot of apprehension wound tighter in my stomach. The whispers swirled around me, merging with the shadows and electrifying the air with tension. Help us, they urged again, as if these haunted souls were desperate for their story to be told. I could almost see their fragmented forms hovering just beyond the threshold, lost, yearning for freedom. Cautiously, I pushed the door, its hinges creaking like a distressed animal. What lay beyond wasn't immediately clear through the dimness, but as I stepped into the narrow passage, I was engulfed by a musty scent mingled with something metallic. The lantern-esque glow revealed remnants of the past. Old crates and tattered mining gear mixed with eerily familiar symbols etched into the walls. My heart raced at the possibilities. This was where their history had been locked away. Find the truth, the words echoed in my mind, carrying a weight that demanded acknowledgement. I moved deeper, pulse quickening with every creak of the aged wood beneath me. The air felt thick, heavy with intent, and I was all too aware of how it tightened around me, as if trying to bind me to the very darkness I sought to escape. Suddenly, I noticed something glimmering on the ground, metal, nestled in the dust. I knelt down, brushing away the layers of grime, revealing old shackles, caked in rust but unmistakably intact. My stomach twisted at the implications. These weren't just relics of the past. They were a reminder of sorrowful stories that had gone unheard. With them lay the silent pleas of those who had been shackled by their fate, tethered to this place, perhaps even trapped in their own despair. That I felt the cool chains burn through my fingers as I picked one up, and a surge of pain flooded through me, a sensation not physically mine. It was as if I was absorbing the anguish of those who had been bound to these very links. I shuddered, instinctively looking over my shoulder. The shadows seemed to swell and pulse, keeping a close watch, a collective consciousness rising from the depths, urging me to act. But then came the growl, low and menacing, the presence that had lingered just beyond my vision. The darkness shifted behind me like a predator lurking from the depths, and I knew my time was limited. Whatever had been protecting this truth was not pleased with my digging. Help us, another chorus filled the air, approaching with urgency, urging me forward as I tightened my grip around the shackles. Release us, I staggered back, torn between fear and resolve. What do I need to do? I shouted into the oppressive gloom, desperation spilling into my voice. Suddenly, the lantern dimmed dangerously, shadows curling closer, as if trying to steal its light. The whispers grew frantic, wrapping around my mind, frustrated that I lacked the courage to unlock their despair. I forced myself to stand firm. I had come this far. I owed it to them to uncover the truth that had been hidden in these depths. I had to learn what had happened here, and how I could set them free, or at least find peace for myself. Completing another step into that confined space, I braced myself, trying to ignore the fear crawling along my spine. Then came a barely audible cry, faint yet piercing. The lantern, it was Jacob's voice, tangible yet distant, as if carried by echoes of the past. My hands instinctively shifted back to the lantern, gripping it tightly. With each desperate whisper around me, I remembered the Figure's instructions. Find the truth. I was being called not just to witness, but to act. I crouched beside the shackles, drawing the lantern closer until the light flickered, revealing something deeper embedded in the wall, another symbol. This one, unlike the others, bearing a resemblance to a doorway. The image was eerily compelling. It matched the crisscrossing chains I clutched, almost like an invocation. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath me, dust falling from the ceiling like tears. They're angry, I thought in terror. With trembling hands, I pressed the lantern against the image, willing it to ignite something, anything. The flames leapt brighter, dancing wildly, almost alive. Then came a sudden rush of wind that extinguished the lantern entirely, plunging me into darkness. My breath caught as I heard a cacophony of voices erupting anguished cries, a cascade of despair echoing from the recesses of the mine, merging into one desperate plea. Help us! In total darkness, I felt the shackles slip from my fingers, clattering against the stone floor. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, letting the whispers blend into a singular voice inside my head. It was no longer just noise but a message resonating with urgency. Break the chains. With a surge of defiance, I opened my eyes wide, letting a newfound strength course through me. I reached for the nearest symbol carved into the wall, my fingers tracing its contours. As I did so, the lantern flickered back to life, illuminating the chamber anew, revealing everything: the walls, the symbols, the truth. Through that glow, the shadows began to shift. Forms materialized from the darkness, emerging into the light. Faces of miners, eyes wide with longing and pain, began to surround me. They faded in and out, their existence tethered to this very moment, awaiting me to unlock their stories. That I end that moment. I understood what I had to do, though the nature of its cost still remained uncertain. As the whispers began to rise, I steeled myself for what lay ahead, a sense of purpose igniting within me, knowing full well that I was now more than a visitor in these ruins. I was the bridge between their past and whatever lay unresolved today. But what awaited me next, I could not say, for the mystery of the mine lingered like a breath. Shadows danced, and I stood at the precipice of choice, ready to face whatever truths remained hidden beneath the darkness.